was former Attorney General of the great state of Missouri, Senator Schmitt. As always, sir, Happy New Year. So you were on a letter with a bunch of your colleagues to John Barrasso. I talked to Mr. Barrasso today. You are going to have a Republican conference meeting tomorrow. What do you want to come up with, Senator Schmitt, on this illegal immigration disaster?
Well, there have been negotiations about what sort of language changes, could take place. I'm more skeptical, probably, than many of my Republican colleagues that no matter what language change you have here, you have an administration that's just not interested in enforcing the law. They have the tools in place right now to secure our border. They don't want to do it. On day one, they reversed all the things that were working under President Trump, remained in Mexico, Title 42. In fact, when I was Attorney General, we talked when I was in that role, we pushed back, won some court battles. We had to go back into court to enforce those judgments. It's not in their DNA. This is an open borders crowd. This is exactly what they want. And so for me, I'm very skeptical of some sort of border deal that just unlocks the Ukraine money, which I think is what the Democrats really want.
Senator Schmitt, question I have is, what might Joe Biden give up if you had a serious negotiation about fixing the border? And I think that's part of your skepticism. Mr. Langford's up working on this, and Barrasso, and a lot of smart guys, but what would Biden really give up? What do you think?
Well, my concern here is that Joe Biden's seeing the polling and may want to give lip service to the issue because he understands now that he's completely lost the American people on this. 75% of Americans now, I think it's even higher than that, believe that we have a real crisis at the southern border. I think they tried to ignore it, but all the while, this is part of their game plan. This White House is filled, Larry, with sort of these Ivy League grads who've written these white papers on the benefits of open borders. They view themselves as global citizens, not really as Americans. So if you take that, if you understand what their ethos is, right, you understand why we're at where we're at. Well, we have 8 million people who've come here illegally. Those numbers are kind of mind-boggling. It's hard to put it in perspective, but just think about this. The national championship game last night was in the stadium there in Houston. It filled, not just, if you added up all the illegals since Joe Biden came in office, it wouldn't be 10 of those stadiums. It wouldn't be 50 of those stadiums. It wouldn't be 100 of those stadiums. It'd be 117 of those stadiums packed with people who've come here illegally. They're not doing anything about it. Nothing's going to change here. And I just think we ought to take them at their word. They came in saying this is what they're going to do. It's not in their DNA to have a secure border. So I think we ought to be very, very skeptical in any of these real discussions. And by the way, Mayorkas himself, the secretary who's charged with enforcing law, doesn't want to do it. Didn't want to, enforce Remain in Mexico was in place, Title 42, and also this parole process, Larry. I think it's important for the audience to understand. These are supposed to be individual determinations on asylum or this parole process, and they're making it in huge classifications. That's illegal right now. So if you actually enforce the law as we have it, we could have a secure border. So some sort of language change, I'm not sure that's going to change the reality on the ground.
And I know, Senator Schmitt, you're a big fan of Bidenomics, and we're going to put up on the full screen a recent poll. What's your financial state? 45% think they're worse off, 23% think they're better off, and 29% about the same. So almost half of those polled think they're worse off to Bidenomics. What do you make of that one?
Yeah, you trust the people, right? They know it. All this nonsense about a slogan to try to convince people they're doing better than they really are with Bidenomics has failed miserably. I think they've stopped calling it Bidenomics. I don't know what they're doing. But the truth is, the average family out there is paying over $10,000 more a year for the same stuff that they were paying for just a few years ago. People feel it. They know you've got this inflation issue that's not going away. And as you know, Larry, inflation's cumulative, right? This has happened now over 3 years. Wages have not kept up with rising costs. And the truth is, when you spend trillions and trillions of dollars you don't have, like here in Washington, and what Joe Biden wants to spend another $7 trillion, and you declare war on domestic energy production, the cost of everything goes up. The supply chain costs go up everywhere. And that's what people are feeling. Every time that feeling that you mentioned in that polling is validated when they go to the grocery store. Moms and dads know this. They're buying snacks for their kids. They know this. When you go to the gas pump, they know this. And so I think when the Biden administration says, don't believe what your eyes are telling you, Americans are calling BS on it.